Many things in our life start with the fact that we believe we can achieve them. But many of us know that when we have invested a lot of time and worked hard for a certain goal and then finally achieve it, we are only satisfied for a short time or even not at all. This means that achieving our goals does not necessarily make us happier and more satisfied in the long run. Why is this so? This dissatisfaction comes from our insatiability. Once we achieve something we've worked for a long time, we generally lose interest. Psychologists Shane Frederick and George Levenstein call this phenomenon the hedonistic treadmill. Many people are stuck in such a treadmill. In order to reach our goals, we struggle, but after we reach those goals, we are only initially euphoric and satisfied for a while. After a certain time, what we have achieved becomes absolutely normal for us, and new desires are nurtured within us, and a certain dissatisfaction spreads. We then always want a little bit more. A little more salary, a better car, a more modern cell phone, a bigger apartment, a fancier bag, etc. Such a process forces us into a treadmill in which we permanently struggle for satisfaction. If an unfulfilled desire comes up in us, it makes us dissatisfied, and we then work hard to satisfy that desire, convinced that we will then be happy. As we can imagine, after a short period of time after achieving the goal or fulfilling the desire, we will no longer consider that thing desirable and will take it for granted. This then leads us again to be dissatisfied, and we feel a sense of lack within us, which in turn can lead to inner turmoil. This is where the Stoic practice of negative visualization can help us. Negative visualization sounds a bit strange at first, but on closer inspection it is actually very useful. It could also be called predictive visualization or anticipation of events. Stoics such as Epictetus, Seneca, or Marcus Aurelius practiced what we today call negative visualization. In Latin, this is called premaeditatio malorum. According to the Stoics, we should imagine losing what we currently own or value, whether it is our car, our job, the ability to walk, or a loved family member. In this way, the Stoics say, we value all those things more and do not take them for granted. When we do negative visualization, we practice imagining various disasters or worst-case scenarios that could befall us as if they were happening right now. We ask ourselves, what is the worst that can happen? Here, we try to maintain a certain Stoic objectivity toward them, always distinguishing between what is within our control and what is not. We should also allow ourselves enough time to deal with the initial feelings until they subside on their own. The Stoics trained themselves to maintain equanimity and freedom from emotional suffering in the face of apparent future misfortunes by regularly visualizing them in advance and preparing to deal with them. Seneca wrote, "Nothing befalls the wise man which he did not expect." The idea is that we generally act in accordance with our expectations. If we accept that everything is easy and pleasant, we will be discouraged when the first problem arises. On the contrary, if we are prepared for things to become unpleasant when we expect great difficulties and obstacles, this will not discourage us as we strive to make progress in our undertakings. Having adopted this new foresight, difficulties will consequently seem very minor as we have anticipated worse ones. This perspective can be applied to many different cases. Generally, we hope for too much. We want our lives to be pleasant and easy, and we expect too much from other people. Consequently, many problems occur. However, if we have no special expectations, every single positive event can make us happy. For example, a kind word from someone that pleasantly surprises us. This exercise is a great help in developing courage, confidence, mental strength, and perseverance. It also teaches us to live and appreciate the present moment, to enjoy what we currently have. Furthermore, it helps us become more aware that everything is impermanent. The point here is also that it is not enough to accept certain unpleasant or painful events when they have occurred, but to anticipate such events, which means to anticipate them mentally. It consists in imagining everything that can happen in the course of our daily life: difficulties, setbacks, suffering, or even death. Of course, when practicing negative visualization, the Stoics want to dampen the effects of unpleasant events, but not escape them, and above all, preserve their peace of mind. For example, Marcus Aurelius practiced mental anticipation in the morning, trying to foresee difficult problems in dealing with people. He wrote, "When you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, the people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly. They are like this because they can tell good from evil." The Stoics also emphasize that by anticipating possible setbacks in life, we take the sting out of them by eliminating the irrational sense of surprise or shock that arises when setbacks occur. Recent psychological research tends to show that people who can accept unpleasant thoughts and feelings without being overwhelmed by them are more resilient and resistant than people who try to distract themselves or avoid such experiences. Avoidance perpetuates fear, and by facing our fears, we reduce the worry they cause as a result. Let us prepare for war in peacetime. For the Stoics, this preparation was lifelong, both physically and mentally. Seneca wrote, "It is precisely in times of immunity from care that the soul should toughen itself beforehand for occasions of greater stress, and it is while fortune is kind that it should fortify itself against her violence. In days of peace, the soldier performs maneuvers, throws up earthworks with no enemy in sight, and wearies himself by gratuitous toil, in order that he may be equal to unavoidable toil. If you would not have a man flinch when the crisis comes, train him before it comes." Instead of anxiously worrying about these things, Stoics proceed calmly by patiently evaluating the perceived threat, especially whether or not it is truly bad or catastrophic. In the face of perceived disasters, we come to realize that reality is never as serious as our imagination imagines. The general precept of Stoic ethics should be the basis for our visualization, that some things are under our control and others are not, and that external things outside our will are basically neutral and thus indifferent. No matter what disasters the Stoics imagine, in this thought experiment, the result is always the same. External events are neither good nor bad. Only our reactions and opinions to them make them good or bad. We will see that expected catastrophes are really neutral or indifferent to us by calm, rational consideration of their true nature. The visualization helps us by encouraging us to overcome our fears in advance, anticipate obstacles, and plan appropriate actions. Negative visualization, in summary, brings the following benefits: anxiety reduction and habituation. When people face anxiety using imagination, there is a natural tendency for anxiety to simply reduce over time as long as the exposure is done sufficiently and repeated. The point is to dissolve anxiety by thinking rationally in advance. Better coping with adversity. The judgment that the expected event is really terrible is challenged in various ways by repeatedly asking, what if this really happens? Would it really be the end of the world? The focus here shifts to developing coping strategies and reevaluating how we can best deal with the situation. Increasing self-confidence and resilience. Repeated exposure to stressful situations provides us with the opportunity to practice new behavioral strategies. Our skill and confidence in responding to adversity is developed through repeated practice. By exposing ourselves to small doses of stress in a controlled manner, we can build stronger defenses and become less vulnerable when faced with a real problem. Thus, we then find such situations less overwhelming. Eliminate the surprise effect. By anticipating possible future adversities, we can learn to eliminate the sense of surprise or shock that often accompanies their occurrence and instead view them as something natural and, in some cases, inevitable in life. Anticipatory visualization is a very good way to prevent this feeling of irrational surprise at life's misfortunes. Increase gratitude and mindfulness. As we have learned, the hedonic treadmill has the power to take away our enjoyment of things so that we take everything for granted. However, by imagining misfortunes in which valued things are lost, we can prevent ourselves from taking them for granted in this way. We thus become more grateful and gain an appreciation for these things, which enables us to feel more joy and happiness. It also teaches us to live and appreciate the present moment, to enjoy what we currently have. As we can see, negative visualization is not really negative, but positive. We can use this visualization for various occasions, whether professional or personal. Important to mention here is that we should apply the Stoic virtue of moderation and not overdo it. Good luck in applying it, and thanks for watching. If you liked the video, subscribe to the channel, and more importantly, share the video with someone who can benefit from this content. Thank you and stay inspired.